Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Butcher's Block episode 2. This one's called Father Time. And this episode opens up with an interesting cold open that reminds me of another show that I recapped recently called Happy, also on Syfy. And Happy had a lot of these weirdo cold opens. They had one that was like a music video. They had one where the main character was on the Jerry Springer show. Not like in universe, just in his mind. Okay, things like that happening. And this has echoes of that, but maybe not quite as good. It's still interesting though. We open on this commercial for Peach Meats. And it's one of these over-the-top, like, trying to do 50s, but like going so far that even the 50s are like, nah, we don't want that mess. Of this lady who is, with her nice classic nuclear family, right, in their nice classic 50s kitchen, and she's cooking and she's talking about the food chain. And meanwhile, she's like pounding on meat way too long with a meat tenderizer. Thank you, eagle-eyed viewers. Last episode, I said meat cleaver. That's clearly not the thing the dwarf had in the first episode. My brain just reached for the wrong word. But she's just being super creepy. And really what we're doing is we're setting up here reminding people about the peaches, okay? If you, for some reason, decided to jump in on episode 2, like, these guys are still characters. We're probably going to meet this woman later on in the episode, sort of signaling that, telling you this character is going to be here, and also setting up this theme of what these people believe about the food chain, about how it's right that some things get to eat other things. And I don't want to go too far down the condemnation road because I like to eat meat, all right? I'm not a vegetarian or anything like that. But the peaches are going further than that. They're, I think, setting up this idea that not only is it okay for us to eat animals, it's okay for us to eat other people that aren't as good as us. And they set that up here at the beginning, and then we smash cut to where we were before with Alice freaking out about Zoe disappearing. All right, we've had a little bit of a time jump. Zoe's apparently gone. The dude in the white suit, Mr. Joseph Peach, has taken her, and she doesn't know where she's at. And while she's freaking out, she flashes back to what the title card tells us is about a year before, when they had a... I don't know why... So the title of this episode comes from the fact that these two girls own a centipede who's named Father Time. Specifically, Zoe owns a centipede named Father Time. Alice is creeped out by it. I don't get where we're going with that, other than it's a creepy bug and we needed like something to let people know that, hey, we haven't had anything scary happen this 5 minutes, so scary bugs. It wasn't even that scary, so that's not really a good explanation. I'm not sure where this specific thing fits in. My brain tells me that maybe we'll see like a revisit of the centipede motif, but like much closer up and creepier. But we'll have to wait on that, because what they do end up seeing that is very creepy is their mom in the middle of having some kind of breakdown. And we don't get to see all of this here, but we get the sense as these little snippets of a flashback unfold throughout the episode that this is sort of the moment that she really went wrong for them. And as this episode unfolds, eventually she ends up stabbing Zoe with a knife. And I'm not fully sure of the timeline here in how much of Zoe's problems have started manifesting yet versus how well mom was before this point. They seem pretty happy in this moment. When they see their mom sitting naked in her room, like kind of hunched over something really creepily, they don't seem like, oh no, here we go again. To me, it reads like, what is going on? Why is this happening? So I don't know how the timeline fits up with how much they know about their mom's mental disease, how far into Zoe's problems she is, but there's some kind of issue that does happen that really, I think, sets everything off for these girls. This is sort of the genesis of their spiral that has led them to Butcher's Block, is what I'm picking up here. The other thing that we see early on in the episode is the door at the top of the staircase opens, all right, the stairs that go to nowhere, and a man comes out with one of the dwarf people. And almost instantly, I'm still creeped out by the dwarves somewhat, but the fact that this guy was walking down the stairs with this little dwarf, like, holding his hand, made him less creepy to me. It like reframed him from some kind of tiny monster that could kill you into a childlike thing that's just kind of cute and walking around with this guy who's wearing a suit. And I mean, yeah, we find out he's creepy later on, but it doesn't really feel like he has the same punch to me as he did in the last episode. I'm hoping he gets that back. I hope creepy face dwarf guy comes back as a real scary thing, and he gets some of that back later on in the episode, but for me, this one kind of just like it was almost like the movie was like, okay guys, don't worry too much about these dwarves. They're not the real threats. So maybe that's just me. Again, all of this horror stuff is subjective, but that's how it read to me. And this guy who comes out is one of the Peaches. The guy in the suit, not the dwarf dude. And he ends up going after Scissor Lady, who I don't know. I'm still interested to find out what exactly her connection is here. It seems like she must have interacted with the Peaches or with whatever otherworldly thing they serve at some point, but I still don't have a clear read on that. But the point is, he walks up, he has a taser from the 50s, I guess. I guess they had those in the 50s. I mean, it's a giant, like, capacitor-looking thing with electrodes coming off of it, so you tell me what that is. But he treats it like a taser, and walks right up to her. She's running to the cops. And this is interesting because this guy just does not slow down. He does not consider the fact that there are cops there, or he knows that there are cops there, and that's why he's doing it. I wasn't able to get an exact read on that, but he just walks up, zaps her, and predictably, our two bumbling policemen from the previous episode who didn't believe that there was, a kidnapping that happened, and in this episode didn't believe that there was weird staircase things that were showing up, which again, I don't know that I would either. If you told me, like in real life, if you just like, there was a staircase and then it disappeared and there was tiny dwarf people, I would have said, and what kind of brownies were you eating at the time? But these guys, do their job. They arrest this creepo who's been chasing this lady around. They put him in jail, and he's totally unfazed. He's just like not even bothered by the fact that they're arresting him. It doesn't, the way this plays out in the episode, it's not even like he had a plan, really. He's just out poking things, looking for something interesting to pop up, and he gets the policeman from the previous episode he uses his last name, and it was like hard to pronounce, and I didn't say it again. Like, I didn't write it down in my notes. But the implication to me here is not that he was specifically coming out targeting this policeman, although I could be wrong. I'm not the writer. It almost feels like he just went out to see what kind of hornet's nest he could kick and then stomp on the hornets because he's the baddest hornet of them all. And he finds this guy and he says, I'm going to call you Mouse. You remind me of a mouse. And he's just so calm and so creepy, but like in that really just not overbearing way, right? Like he's so self-confident and self-assured that you want to punch him in the face. Because he knows he's going to get away with this. He's like Hannibal Lecter, but on steroids. And they put him in the jail with this other guy. And there's a great showdown between the black dude in the cell. And I think that there's probably some significance to the fact that this is a black character. Because again, we're talking about sort of the rich preying on the weak. And there's like the obvious power dynamic in America, disadvantaged black people and the richer white folks, and the obvious metaphor here that these peach people are not cool, and he just like eggs this guy on. He doesn't, again, it's not even like he has a plan. Like, he could clearly just eat this dude. He's got the power. He can do whatever he wants. But he starts off by popping his knuckles at the guy and just annoying him first. And then we don't get to see this happen necessarily, but we know at some point he's naked. So you just got to imagine he took his clothes off in front of this guy while telling them that he was going to eat him. And then he does eat him. Like, arm up inside of his intestines while he's still alive, feasting on his entrails, raw, eats the guy. And on to top all that off, draws a mouse in his blood for our mouse detective to find. Wow. That's a good introduction. Okay, it's not the best villain I've seen this year, because I watched Happy and there's some really good villains in Happy, but this guy is amazing. And he gets away with it too, because he knows he's gonna, right? The cop's dad, who's the chief of police there, or the sheriff or whatever, he says, listen, this is way above my pay grade. I'm kicking it up the chain. He's going to go to state or whatever. He's going to end up in a mental facility. And says to his son, essentially like reinforcing what the creepy Mr. Peach guy has already said, that he's not really a strong person. He's not like a tough, manly man. And he apparently had to compete with his other two brothers that were, the father calls them soldiers. I don't know if he means that literally, like they actually went off and fought in a war eventually, or if he's just saying your brothers are tough and you're not. But you can tell that there's this kernel of something that really, really bothers this policeman, and he ends up following this guy and seeing him get away, watching him escape up the staircase. Meanwhile, back in our A plot, Zoe's back. And she says that she's cured. Which, she doesn't seem cured. Like, she seems off. She seems a little bit messed up. She's wearing, like, too much and the wrong shade of lipstick. It's like if you were experimenting with lipstick and you didn't really understand what colors worked with your skin tone, like she did that, and she's just talking about how she's cured now and how everything's better, and her sister knows that something's wrong, and also just like can tell that something is creepy here, and she wants answers. She wants to know what is going on, where did you go, who were you with, like, why is this Mr. Peach dude still around? Because she's also been chasing that rabbit, right? Where she talks to the journalist, ex-journalist lady, their landlady, and says, I saw Mr. Peach. Like, he's still apparently okay from when he disappeared 50 years ago. He shouldn't still be alive. So she's dealing with all that. She's trying to put all these pieces together, and her sister is not helpful at all. She has that line that she said in the trailers, if you've seen them, the teasers for the show, where she talks about the voice made out of flies, saying that they could fix her, and then she's in this weird field of some kind of flowery grain stuff, I don't know, and then she's, back. She doesn't remember enough of what happened to tell her anything. She's clearly not in her right mind, and so, of course, Alice goes down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what's going on, and I thought it was interesting that she ended up teaming up with the landlady, because I kind of thought that the landlady was going to be a little bit more of a standoffish force. I mean, she said as much in the first episode, like, I'm not interested in hanging out with you. Not interested in your problems. I don't care. And maybe that's still true, but she's also interested in finding out what happened to her brother. And so at least for now, they have sort of this symbiotic we both want the same thing relationship, even if the landlady's not actually interested in doing something for them. Like she doesn't want to get involved with their lives. Meanwhile, Zoe is hearing voices because, that's not a symptom of schizophrenia or anything. And the voices are telling her, yes, she is cured. When the voices in your head tell you that you're cured, that might be a good sign that you're not. And furthermore, that while the cure has taken effect, there is also a small side effect. And we see later that the side effect is she's going to start craving eating stuff like cats. There's a moment where she fantasizes about eating the hairless cat that the landlady has. And then, of course, they do the fake out thing where you think it's real and then they cut back to, oh no, it's just her thinking about it. But whatever the peaches have done to her has planted this desire for flesh inside of her brain. And it's not enough for them to do it just to her, because shortly thereafter, the little guy delivers an invitation to Alice and the landlady. Just Alice, I should say. The landlady comes along. Mr. Peach gave them crap about her bringing the landlady. I do want to point out, the invitation wasn't addressed to anybody. It just said, come on down and eat some dinner with us, but in fancy words. I did not see Alice's name on there, so maybe Mr. Peach, you should be more specific before you start giving people crap for bringing guests to your dinner party that you had in the middle of an abandoned playground. Maybe that. And of course, it's sort of not in the abandoned playground. The Peaches are playing with some kind of reality mind warp or whatever, because they get there, they sit down, there's all this delicious looking food, of course, and eventually Mr. Peach gets around to talking to Alice about what he did. And he's like, I can show you what I did, because I'm going to do it to you. And he drills a hole in her head, exposes the brain matter, and finds Mr. Schizophrenia. Mr. Schizophrenia is weird. Mr. Schizophrenia is a face that lives inside of Alice's brain and like laughs and talks and stuff, and wow. It's weird. I know I already said that it was weird, but like the imagery there, it's sort of Lynchian in a way, and it also kind of reminds me of some stuff from last year's season of Legion. Just the like crazy mind trippy, like cutting that between things that feel the same but also are in different locations. Like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, and it all culminates with Alice and the landlady waking up at the table, still in the abandoned playground, except now there's people on it. And that one of the people we see, I like that the show reminded us about the yellow fingernails, because I wouldn't have picked up on it from last episode to this episode, because I'm not that observant, or, it's hard to remember things over the week. But the yellow fingernails of the mom who had disappeared from the house that she was visiting are now on a hand that's severed in a bowl on this table, along with a bunch of other really gross stuff that's just rotting and covered in flies. I don't know where we're going with this. It seems like we're going to have some kind of supernatural element, obviously. We see these staircases appearing and disappearing. We see cutaways to this weird face in some kind of flowing energy, dark place that I can't describe. It's very impressionistic. You see with Mr. Peach's face flicker a little bit when he's talking at one point when nobody's looking at him. And of course, the big topper is his backstory is that his daughters have died back in the 50s, right? Somebody killed him, and he kind of got freaked out by that, and there was rumors flying around town. Not non-specific rumors, like we don't know what exactly they were accusing him of, but some people stormed into his house, found something in the basement, and burned the house to the ground. There's a lot of open questions here about like what was in the basement, what is going on. Is this guy worshiping some kind of weird otherworldly deity to get his... I mean, it seems like he either is worshiping or is some kind of weird otherworldly thing to get his immortal powers. And we also see a few, like, that these dwarf things are members of the family. So these are all pieces of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle yet. What I think is happening, that there's a concept that's brought up several times in the episode, is that the younger Mr. Peach says to the officer, or no, says to the guy in the cell, "You're just a different form of energy," all right? And he's speaking about calories specifically, like, I'm just going to turn you into my energy. And then later on, when Alice is at the dinner party, one of the dwarf things, I think, or maybe it's the younger Mr. Peach, says that the daughters of the Peaches had turned into a different kind of energy. And my take on this is that they're working on a way to bring their daughters back, and they need host bodies. And their plan is to use Alice and Zoe to bring back these two girls from whatever weird spirit realm that they went to when they died. And somehow cannibalism ties into all this, and you need to be cannibal to stay alive. But there's still a lot of really not well-connected dots here. Laying a lot of groundwork still. New B-plot. I really like that we've introduced a new plot now with the policeman freaking out about what's going on, like seeing into the illusion a little bit, and now he's going to start believing in this, but nobody else is going to believe him. Maybe he can team up with Alice and Zoe. But I don't know where this is going. I have to say, from my perspective, this wasn't as strong as the first episode. My wife liked it more. When we were watching this together, she thought it was great. She said, "Oh, that was much better than last week." I thought last week was just a better individual episode. This one is sort of throwing down all the pieces on the floor. It's like when you're putting Legos together and you open the package, you just dump all the pieces out. They're not, you don't immediately see what they're going to be. There's no inherent beauty in all this pile of pieces until you start looking at the directions and putting them together. This is the episode where it feels like they've dumped out some pieces and they still have to put them together. And that's fine, because that's storytelling, but I'm hoping for a little bit more going forward. And again, these are just my opinions. I know a lot of y'all disagree with me on various things about the Channel Zero products. I dug No End House to death, and some of y'all thought it was a little bit not as great. That's all cool. And I would love for you guys to leave a comment and let me know what you thought. Obviously, I may have missed some things. I may be wrong about some things. You might have different theories about what's going on. I love to hear about all of that. Your feedback is amazing, and it is the wind beneath my proverbial wings. If you like this video, you can click on the little like button. It's shaped like a thumbs up, currently anyway. And subscribe to the channel. We will see you guys next week with another episode of the Butcher's Block recap. Take care.